Okay, so this lab is about types of chemical reactions. And we're going to look at synthesis, decomposition, single replacement, and double replacement reactions. Unfortunately, we will not be doing any combustion reactions on Monday. You might do some neutralization reactions. Well, you will do some neutralization reactions if you take grade 12 chemistry, and you'll also do many of these. So yeah, you're going to observe examples of each of the 4 types of reactions, write out the chemical equations, and classify them. And you'll be actually predicting the products and everything as well. So on Monday, what you're going to have is a Bunsen burner, a lab burner. We are going to turn the gas on and actually use some fire. You're going to have some test tubes and test tube clamps, kind of like the setup that I had when I just did that lead nitrate thing. I'll give you all some wood splints, crucible tongs, some steel wool. So some of this stuff you will be able to find in the back. Some of it I'll actually have to bring out, such as the wood splints and the steel wool and stuff. And then lab aprons and lab coats. The reagents are over here. One thing that I did notice when people were writing up their materials in their lab reports, some people separated apparatus and reagents, which is awesome. You don't have to, but you can do that if you'd like to. Just make sure that if you do that, you're using some kind of table form so that it's not kind of all weird formatting. Most of the things we're working with on Monday are going to be poisonous, corrosive, or irritating. None of it is going to kill you if it gets on your skin, but some of it could be harmful if you ingest it. So we're going to be very, very careful about making sure that we handle things appropriately and that we clean things up well and are wearing proper protective equipment. Because we'll be working with hydrochloric acid, which is very corrosive, and it is 2 molar, which is a fairly high concentration. Calcium chloride is pretty chill. Copper 2 sulfate is poisonous, and I think magnesium oxide is as well. So we're just going to be really nice and careful with all of these. Wash our hands really thoroughly after we're done. The procedure I'm going to have you all read through either today or over the weekend so that you come in and you are ready to go. You can just look at the procedure and you're like 100% ready to go on this. Max, keep your phone away. Thank you. Okay, so you're going to be all set when you come in on Monday. Reagent disposal. So I've got right here, place all liquid and solid waste into designated containers. I will write it up on the board as well, but basically all of the acids go down the sink with lots of water. And then our things like copper 2 sulfate or things like that are going to go in the waste bucket, which is in the fume hood. And there are a couple of things we might need to filter, which is what I've done up there. So I'll have a waste beaker. If there's something with a precipitate in it, we'll do a filtration. So again, I will write that on the board, but just be aware that you cannot just dump everything down the sink. That's really important. There are some environmental hazards in this. Okay, and then post-lab discussion, data and observation. So you will be using this table. So you guys will be setting up similar to the last lab we did with our tables and stuff today. And then there's some questions. And I am going to get you all to do all of the questions and the follow-up questions as well, in addition to your conclusion for this lab. So if you have a look at this, can everybody just make sure they've got this out in front of them, the data and observations? When you're looking at this data and observations table, it says before, during, and after. You need to be making some really nice qualitative observations for this lab. So on our last lab, it was largely quantitative. This lab is largely qualitative. So you're going to be describing, like, what does this look like? What is this? Don't feel it or taste it, but you can do some walk. Actually, I guess we all have to wear masks. You can't really waft it. Okay, so mostly what does it look like? So lots of nice observations. If it's blue, use words like light blue or dark blue. So just be as descriptive as you can. What's happening during it, and what do you see after the reaction? So just make sure that you're doing really, really thorough descriptive observations here. Somebody who wasn't in the room could kind of get a picture of what was happening during your reaction. And then from that, if you make really good observations, you're going to have an easier time answering these questions. So that is kind of the format of this lab in a nutshell. And again, just make sure you're reading through the lab procedure. There are 7 different reactions, and I want you all to be familiar with what you're going to be doing when you come in on Monday. Okay, so I just want to run through the actual setup again. So you should all have this, formal lab reports and how to write one for Chemistry 11. So it's got your title page, your purpose, materials, procedure, diagram, and this kind of outlines everything that you need. It's got 2 R's there. So everything that you need to know is in here. And then we did do a setup for Lab 2D. So we went through this together. We made a title page. We made a purpose, materials, and procedure. We left space for a diagram, observations, and data. We actually put the graphs in ahead of time. The tables ahead of time. So I do want you all to make sure that this is nicely set up and ready to go for Monday. So you can come in here, you've got your tables, you've got everything set up. You can just be recording your data as you go. You can be recording your observations. We're not going to be doing any calculations for this one, so you won't need to do a sample calculation. And then there's only the one table. There were 4 in the last lab. Analysis is your questions and follow-up questions, error analysis, and conclusion. I've been looking through your labs and just making comments on them. The most frequent things that I'm seeing that I want you all to work on are the procedure. So you just have to write this out, but if you do something different, some people wrote down in their observations, I think. Yeah. So some people in their observations wrote something like, we were missing for this part, or we got data from somebody else for this part. That's not really an observation, so that's a procedure. So any modifications that you do make to the procedure, right up here. So like refer to pages, blah, 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 to blah, blah, blah. And then maybe just like our group was something. So any modifications to the procedure should go in that section. Diagram, you all need to draw your own diagrams. So whether you do that with some kind of computer program or whether you do that on a piece of paper and take a picture of it is up to you. For this lab, because there are 7 reactions, I just want you to draw, they're all a similar procedure, so I just want you to draw an example of 1 or 2, and label kind of the setup. So you don't have to draw all 7 reactions out. You can just draw the basic procedure that you're going to do for all of them. So I would make sure you read through all 7 reactions before you draw your diagram. And please draw your own. Don't have your friend draw one and then take a photo of it. So the goal of this is that I know that you know what you're doing when you come in. Observations and data, everybody did a really good job of this. I didn't have any concerns with that. And then analysis, follow-up, and error analysis, and conclusions. So all of this stuff should be written in the passive voice. Do you all know what passive voice is? So instead of saying, we placed the beaker, ... Don't do that. The beaker was placed. So that's correct. So when we write labs, we write it in the passive voice, and it's like The whatever was done, it's not active voice. It's not first person. Like I did this, we did this, that kind of thing. It's supposed to be in the passive voice. There have been some changes to this over the years. For a while, people wanted labs written in active voice, but it's kind of come back around, and this is generally how universities are going to ask you to do this as well. So just try to practice that. No, throughout the lab. Yeah. So even in the procedure, um, yeah. So anywhere throughout the lab, it should be passive voice. So just no I or we or are, that kind of thing. But yeah, the rest of the lab was really well done. I've made some notes on your specific lab, so you should be able to see those. I'm still just working through looking at your questions and your conclusion, but any of the setup stuff, any of the formatting, everything down to data and observations, which is what you're setting up today, there should be comments on and feedback for if there was anything. I also just might have written like good job on that if there was nothing wrong with it. Yeah. So that's that, and I will work on looking at your conclusions as you all set that up. Does anybody have any questions about the actual document setup of this lab? No? Okay. All right. Second thing is, if you finish setting up the document, I have got Earth Science in here this afternoon. It is a very small group. And then you all are first thing Monday morning. So if you actually want to gather your materials, your apparatus materials, you are welcome to do that. You can gather the materials and just set them kind of off to the side of your desk. So don't put them like right in the middle, blocking everything.